This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Fan. Just in case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barrero's Top 5 at 5. Brought to you by Gutter Helmet of Minnesota. Never clean your gutters again. Learn more at gutterhelmetmn.com.
We'll get your weekly dose of Kevin Seifert, starting with the 5:15 segment. A lot of that, though, at least the bare bones of it, we need to cover it for the record in the top 5 at 5, correct? In terms of injuries.
A lot going on. A lot going on with your Minnesota Vikings. Aaron Jones, running back, hamstring, injured reserve today. He is out now a minimum of 4 games.
Should we just concede the division to the Packers now?
Some people have done that already. Mm-hmm. By the way, it does not take much for Sinekin and Brett Blakemore to get just completely insufferable.
Well, at least, Blakemore kind of acknowledged it, at least. I don't know if Sinekin's capable of it.
That's a good point.
But it's tough to have fast.
2-0. The adult Sinekin, and then now Blakemore's like the younger Sinekin.
Do you think they enable each other?
Yes,
is that what you're saying?
And Blakemore's like he's emboldened by the Sinekin cocoon. Because if he goes
they're
over
in their own echo chamber, there's a lot of talk in 2025 about you're in your own echo chamber. Do you think they're in their own echo chamber on the division?
A little bit.
Yes.
A little bit. A little bit. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But, so Aaron Jones, done. Minimum of 4 games. So that puts you out of the international series, right? The Steelers and the Browns.
Correct.
And maybe Philly, I guess, although we have a bye week after that. So that means Jordan Mason is number 1. And then the old reliable Cam Akers is apparently coming back. Here's my question. Why do we keep letting him go if we just keep bringing him back? Because he plays well when he's here, doesn't he?
Not bad.
I like Cam Akers.
Journeyman at this point, but yeah.
He is, but I really like Cam Akers. So he is apparently coming back. And Desmond Ridder, quarterback, is coming.
So who's going to be our emergency quarterback?
I think him.
On Sunday, it'll be him, I assume, right?
Yeah, I would assume him. Because we know JJ's not going to play for a while. Carson Wentz will get the start. Max Brosmer.
And Rippon went to the Bengals. The Bengals have like 9 quarterbacks now. They got Rippon, Sean Clifford, Mike White. Actually, I guess not. That's 3. And the starter will be the former Viking, right?
Jake Browning.
Mitch Browning.
If you remember a couple of years ago when they beat us in Cincinnati, had the famous video where he threw his helmet and said, "Never should have bleeping cut me." Jake Browning.
Oh, that's right.
Forgot
about that.
I'm happy for Jake that he's found a new home,
By the way,
calm down.
The kicker, this Romo kid.
Parker Romo? John Parker?
I don't think anybody can argue that we didn't need him because, in fact, the kicker we have is very good, right?
Yeah. The Thrill.
What did Romo say something about him being with the Vikings previously? When he got interviewed post-game, but I didn't understand his point. Was he like doing the old, you didn't believe in me, or was he actually
I don't know.
doing the opposite? Someone may have heard it.
Yeah.
Maybe Seifert did. We'll ask him later.
I just like the fact that
he was terrific, though.
He was great.
Especially the 5th one, right? Because that was the long one where you say, well, that might be the dagger. And until then, you're still thinking maybe if the Vikings can put together something offensively, they can steal the game like they did the week before.
I don't remember who the Falcons also had on the field. I assume Robinson was one of them, maybe Penix. But one of them had not yet met Parker Romo.
That's true.
And met on the field.
It was the pass rusher.
Floyd?
Floyd.
Was it?
That was who it was on the field, and they had not met. Yes.
It's brilliant.
It's outstanding,
so
isn't
good.
it?
There was apparently a story.
Speaking of staying in your own silos.
Somebody with the Packers, speaking to the Packers going years back, like Mike McCarthy basically said, congratulations to Mason on NFC Special Teams Player of the Week. And one of the players, I can't remember which one, it wasn't A-Raj, basically said, "Who's Mason?" Because they only knew Mason Crosby as Crosby. That's all they called him.
Right.
So that's the life of the kicker, unfortunately, or fortunately. Sometimes the team doesn't even know who you are. So that's what we've got. Ritter, by the way, the new quarterback, you know how Brett Rippon spent time with us. Ritter spent time with the Bengals in training camp. So whose intel is better is going to be on display this Sunday at noon at US Bank Stadium.
There's no question about that.
Yep. So that's the Vikings news. More with Seifert next segment. I'm not all too ashamed to admit this, but I had a vague understanding or idea, but not a great one, that the New York Yankees were actually in town last night.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Zero.
I knew that it was on the horizon. I don't know if the Viking stuff yesterday, I wasn't really, locked in. Clearly, I'm not locked in on the Twins. But as you would expect in September, the Twins dominated. Simeon Wood Richardson, maybe with his best start ever, 11 strikeouts, and the Twins won 7.
How many innings did he go?
To 0. 6. And then Austin Martin drove in 4 runs.
Okay. Yeah, he's a new phenom.
But here's the appetizer, or here's the meal for the Twins appetizer. I brought up the game to bring up Twins geek John Bonus scoring one for the little people today. And by the little people, I mean Twins fans. Did you hear what Bonus did today?
No.
I think it was today. He was with the Power Trip Morning Show. Bonus still goes to all the games, right? Mm-hmm. He's a season ticket holder. He goes to the games. They do at the Twins and at Target Field, they do like a reward system for people. Like you spend money at Target Field on concessions and stuff, and you get points. And then at the end of the season, you can redeem your points for different items like bobbleheads and baseballs, bats.
Let me guess, he had like 1 million points that he redeemed? Yeah.
And what he had been doing is you can redeem for concession stand gift cards. So in effect, you get some money back to then use it. Well, that option had been taken away.
I'm going to predict
on the app
that he gave away all those gift cards to the 7 fans who were at the game. I'm sorry.
Close.
Yeah.
But what he did was, but if you went into the app and he publicly talked about this, you could no longer redeem your points for a concession stand gift card. They weren't. They were sold out. Basically, they were unavailable.
What?
And somebody had said our gift card budget has been exceeded, and
you got to be kidding me.
I'm not. Bonus talked about it. He tweeted about it, and the power of Bonus, the Twins geek, and KFAN.
You can't do that.
He tweeted out about an hour ago. Gift cards are now available in the Twins app.
Oh, how rich is that?
That's why I brought it up.
Oh my God! Well, good for Bonus.
Exactly
exposing
right.
it and having enough power to get. But I mean, I don't. That's so so it didn't matter that they set up the rules. They said, well, we've exceeded our budget. How many times in the history of this franchise, at one level or another, including the payroll, said, well, we've exceeded our budget. We can't do anything else.
Exactly.
How perfect is it? I mean, it so perfectly captures the embarrassing state of this organization that they had to be shamed into it by somebody with a big public platform. Because if it was just the average rube, my guess is it gets nowhere. They go, tough. Too bad. We've run out of money. God, that's classic.
That's why I brought it up.
Good
Gleeman,
story.
by the way, tweeted out just a brilliant picture of John Bonus to
basking in his glory.
Well, it's an old picture, but I think it sets the scene for how big of a badass Bonus was.
Oh my God!
In this situation. So score one for the little people, and congratulations to the Twins geek.
What another embarrassing moment for a franchise that continues to try to break the record for embarrassing moments in any calendar year.
How low can they go, like you said?
How low can that's astonishing. I just can't. You can't make that up.
It's the best. There we go. Let's go. Let's straddle.
I'm gobsmacked.
I figured you would be.
I don't even know where to go from here. I tell you what, we will go. We'll go to the Vikings conversation, and Kevin Seifert will find out if he has any money to redeem or in gift cards at Twins games. I'm guessing not, but you never know. And who knows what else. More Robert Redford, too, as well as we continue our show-long ode to one of the Hollywood greats. Stay tuned.
Hey, it's Brian Christopher. Ready to chill this summer? You're in luck. I'm hanging out at Chumba Casino, and you're in for a treat. Chillax with hundreds of games, daily bonuses, exciting spins, and epic prizes. It's all here, always free to play. Kick back, have fun, and head to ChumbaCasino.com. Let's make this summer legendary.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21 plus.
Would you guys consider anything less than a championship to be a failure from this year?
I wouldn't say anything is a failure, especially because we all grow every day. obviously the goal is a championship. There's no doubt in that, and that's the goal. We want to win a championship.
I'm Christina Williams, host of the podcast, In Case You Missed It with Christina Williams. The WNBA playoffs are here, and I've got the inside scoop on everything from key matchups and standout players to the behind-the-scenes moments you won't find anywhere else.
It's really, really hard to be the champions, but we have to remember how it feels and embrace the new challenge that we have.
For all the biggest stories in women's basketball, plus exclusive interviews with the game's brightest stars.
So to be here, I think it's one that we definitely don't take for granted. But we also know, that's just one stop along the way, and we're hoping to, make a run.
So listen to In Case You Missed It with Christina Williams, an iHeart Women's sports production in partnership with Deep Blue Sports and Entertainment on iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is The Fan.
Step into the magic. The Minnesota Renaissance Festival runs weekends right now through September 28th. You can get your tickets now at renaissancefest.com and enter for your shot to win a pair of tickets. It's on our contest page, KFAN.com, keyword contest.
Questions for Kevin Seifert. He is in studio. The Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is open at 64686. We've been owing Seifert, your guy, Robert Redford, who's died at the age of 89 years old. It was revealed earlier today. I don't know if I would. Would you classify yourself as much of a cinema buff? You like films, to a degree.
I saw.
Do you have a Redford favorite? Would you say, or not so much?
I guess in my profession, I should say All the President's Men. But
that's unanimous among guests today. On the show.
It's our we've business. All invoked the cliche.
There's going to be a but.
Okay, good.
I can still remember seeing The Natural as a kid at this old movie theater in downtown Richmond, Virginia, on like Cary Street, and it's probably long since gone. And like my feet stuck to the floor.
One of those kind of theaters, yes.
And it was like
grimy.
Very grimy. But I just remember thinking how cool, and maybe it has now changed to cringy, but how cool the scene of the fireworks and it didn't strike me at the time as anything other than completely what could have happened had that been real life, and just such a even as a kid, just such a warm movie.
Well, this will shock people that who listen to the show. It might shock you. I've always defended the film. I actually love the movie, and that's very contrary to my reputation, where I often talk about movies being rather cringy.
Yeah,
Gaardsy's favorite baseball movie, I find cringy. What's the name of it?
Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams. Well, I find that cringy, but for some reason I bought The Natural. I don't know if it was, again, the Redford effect. The supporting cast was really good, and I almost thought the myth was the point of the film, although it's a completely different ending than the book, which had a lot of the purists very bitter at the time.
Not Field of Dreams, but The Natural.
Correct. Yes.
That's what I understand. I've not read the book. I've read Field of Dreams and seen Field of Dreams. Those two are very similar, almost identical.
Are they? Yeah.
And I also liked Field of Dreams, but there was I don't know if it's just the way Redford sold it or the way just my perception of the way things probably were back then. Like there's just such a perception that baseball was so pure and joyful in those days, that even though I know the storyline was not necessarily pure and joyful of the movie, but the baseball parts of it evoked what in my mind at the time, and maybe now, thought baseball was really like that.
Very well stated. In fact, let's play a scene from almost the very end of that film that still gives me chills.
I'd have walked away from baseball and I'd have bought a farm.
Nothing like a farm. Nothing like being around animals, fixing things. There's nothing like being in the field by yourself with the vegetables and the corn, the winter wheat. Greenest stuff you ever saw.
You know, my mother told me I ought to be a farmer.
My dad wanted me to be a baseball player.
Well, you're better than anyone I ever had. And you're the best goddamn hitter I ever saw. Suit up.
Suit up. There it is, man.
I'm crying just thinking about it.
This is a brilliant scene.
Yeah.
Will Brimley, who you heard that, he plays the part of the Pops, the manager.
Yeah.
One of a series of outstanding ensemble actors in that film. That's the other thing that made that movie so good.
And who was the actor that played the sports writer? Was that Robert Duvall?
Robert Duvall.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Nice and snarly and vicious.
Perfect for the way we think of the Jackals even
that's
now.
That's right, a Jackal of all time.
Yeah, and Glenn Close is the
correct
is the love interest, I guess. And so
Darren McGavin's in the film. It's a great cast.
I could watch it right now and not feel at all cringy about
100% true. All right, so let's get to we kind of did the Vikings injury report during the top 5 at 5, but before we get to some of the details, let's go back to the other night, to Sunday night. And as you know, since the injury was not revealed on McCarthy, there have already been several conspiracy theories offered. One is it's a quote-unquote shadow benching, that he's really, as he proved by continuing to play that game, not that hurt, but they want to use that as an excuse so he can kind of, keep the faith a little bit and save face. Another theory and this one I believe might be more plausible than the first, is on the basis of what they've seen through 7 of 8 quarters, they might not mind that he's got a minute here or going to have a minute or two to collect his thoughts and back away from it a little bit because he looks so overwhelmed. I think that's more believable. Now, that's not the same thing as saying that they are wishing for him to be hurt. But can you argue that maybe the timing isn't the worst on the basis of how bad it has looked this early?
Yeah, I guess the way I put it the other day was that it's not. It could be a convenient injury.
Mm-hmm.
I asked O'Connell directly that yesterday because that's where my head went as well. And people were like, well, what do you expect him to say? But he's made very clear that at least, from his perspective, this is 100% injury related and not performance. And the reason I tend to believe that is that if the whole plan was to put him out there, knowing that he hasn't played in the NFL, he didn't play a ton in college in terms of throwing the ball,
right?
Needs reps, needs game speed, needs to play, then
you're not going to abandon ship.
Under what circumstances would, other than the perception, unless their perception was that he's so completely overwhelmed and so completely behind the speed of the game that he's actually going to do damage to his career and potential and set back his development by continuing to play, which I don't think it's that we're at that part. People could say maybe Anthony Richardson was with the Colts a couple years ago and or last year, and that's why they went where they went. But to me, I can't see where the net positive would be of having J.J. McCarthy not playing when you've built the whole franchise around him eventually being the starter, knowing how much he needs to play.
Johnny Athletic offered an interesting theory that he believes part of it is he's not convinced that the head coach has yet figured out by his own play calling what the right mix is, what the right blend is of we don't want to have him throw too much, so we're going to try to run the ball, but then are you playing to his strengths? Have you figured out even how to best play to the strengths he might have, especially in this early period where maybe he doesn't have it all figured out? How would you evaluate the play calling through the first 2 weeks?
I don't have any issues with it. And I think it's pretty normal, even with if they had, signed Aaron Rodgers, that there would be a period where you were trying things and some things would work and some things wouldn't, and you would be making adjustments over the course of the month because in Aaron Rodgers' case, he almost definitely wouldn't have played in the preseason at all. McCarthy basically didn't, so they'd be in kind of the same situation. So I don't even think it would be unusual if the head coach or the play caller of any team right now would tell you when, if attached to a lie detector, that they're still not totally convinced. So I don't even think that would be unusual. I think there might be some things that he's observed and he knows about McCarthy in terms of limitations right now that are preventing some of the things that, fans, media, whoever would be expecting them to do, whether it's screens or quick game type passes. that might be a little hard for us from the outside to completely perceive. But I think Johnny's probably right, and I also don't think that would be really anything out of the ordinary either.
One of the things that struck me about this the second game is he appears slighter to me than I thought he was. He doesn't look, there's that cliche about strong in the pocket, where if you get sacked, anybody who's strong can get sacked if they get hit in the wrong place, obviously, or with enough force. But the way I felt a couple times, he was almost like being thrown around like he was a rag doll a little bit. He doesn't seem to have yet that quarterback presence in terms of just strength. He looked really slight to me. Am I making that up?
No, I there's been a couple times where he's done like a head over heels situation, and there was at least one where I think I noticed what you were talking about, where he just kind of got slammed over somebody else. One of the things in the draft was blanket statement noted is that he's not as big as a lot of the other guys in that draft class in general. And we saw last year during the end of his rehab from his knee, what happens when he's really not able to maintain his weight. Like, he's probably a guy that's more in the 180s, 190s, all things being equal, than he would be at 220, which is more or less where he's at during the playing season. So he's never going to be Josh Allen. He's never going to be, but what you're saying is that I think is a little bit more of probably of a fundamental thing, and a little bit more of the brain is sped up. And so when you're playing relaxed, when you're playing natural, like, you're probably more aware of the things around you. I think one of the things in general that I'm sure that they would love to see happen is for him to get rid of the ball quicker, and he'd be in less of those situations where he's being quote unquote thrown around or what have you. I think when I looked at last, his time before he threw was one of the longest in the league. The seconds.
Right.
It's not like, if you look at a list, they're all pretty close, but half a second is a big deal sometimes. And so he's definitely holding the ball longer. And I don't think it's necessarily, because nobody's open. I think it's just that's why he needs to play. There's the only way to get your brain speed and your body speed at the NFL level is to either play a ton in college, which he didn't do, or to do it at the NFL level. So I think that's what is happening. And Kevin O'Connell even used the phrase, he's developing in real time, I think is the phrase he used, or something like that. And so that's what we're seeing. And so sometimes when you're sped up, or things aren't totally second nature yet, you're holding the ball a little longer, maybe you're not bracing yourself, or you're a little bit less, your peripheral instincts are a little bit reduced. And those are the things that can happen.
I'm not here to declare that once Carson Wentz takes the field on Sunday, he will not relinquish the job the rest of the season. Okay, I'm not going to go that far. But in all honesty, as we talked about earlier in this show, this is the situation we find ourselves, or the Vikings find themselves in a situation in which the best seasons in the last 30 years have tended to take place after an injury to the guy who's supposed to be the quarterback, right? This is where we're the most comfortable, quite frankly. I'm not saying that means you want it to happen, but that's the irony of this, is that rarely have we been in a situation where the quarterback we wanted from the beginning has stayed healthy and he's the guy to lead us to the promised land. It has tended to be the second guy who, for whatever reason, had to be thrown out there because of injury or performance or whatever else.
And there's some big ones like Randall Cunningham taking over for Brad Johnson. There's some other pretty big ones like was it Case Keenum?
Yeah.
And then there's even ones like that I thought of yesterday when
Wade, you want to go back far enough? Wade Wilson for Tommy Kramer.
Wade Wilson, and I was going to say Gus Frerotte for Tavares
a
Jackson.
One. Yeah.
And I think if I remember right, Gus Frerotte came off the bench at week 3 or 4. They went 6-2 or something, and they were in playoff position. And then he got hurt again. And they brought Tavares back in to be the starter. But there's a long history, and it doesn't matter who's the owner of the team, who the GM of the team is, the coach. There's been a long history of that. I don't necessarily think it applies here, other than fans wouldn't be surprised, or they would accept it as just another type of Vikings situation. But I think I don't think it's almost tough to put Carson Wentz in that position to say that he's going to be the next one along those lines. I mean, this is literally his 6th team in 6 years. And so there's
never had a quarterback whisperer before. Although he has had some very good
Sean
offensive
McVay
coaches.
does a decent job.
Andy Reid, right?
Andy Reid.
Yeah.
And so, or was it Doug Peterson at that point? I'm trying to remember. Anyway, I think it was Doug Peterson. Well, when Carson Wentz was there, because the year he had that MVP almost year and tore his ACL. That was the year they won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles.
Wasn't he with Kansas City last year?
Yeah, last year. Yes.
Right.
Okay, I'm thinking way back to Philly.
Way back, yeah.
And so, but there is a sense, certainly around the NFL. And maybe with some people inside the organization, that there's plenty of plays to be made there. There's been guys open the past 2 weeks. There's been, you just need if you just threw it a half second earlier, you just had a better, feel of things at that moment. But look, Carson Wentz has been here 2.5, 3 weeks. I think this is a tougher situation for him than maybe we're giving credit to. It doesn't mean he and Kevin O'Connell and Josh McCown and Wes Phillips can't pull it off with the right game plan and the right cooperation from people around them. But, he's going to be out there with an offensive line that I couldn't tell you who the 5 starters are going to be quite yet. And he's never thrown a pass. Like, this is probably tomorrow's practice will be the second practice he's ever thrown a pass to Justin Jefferson, probably because, the other one being last Thursday when McCarthy was out with his fiance having the baby. And so there's a lot for him this is not an easy thing for him to do. And so, I'm trying to not go down the road of, what happens if he starts, throws for 300 yards and they start going on a winning streak? The Vikings would be thrilled to have that decision to make, but I still think he'd have to play pretty well for them to say, we're going to delay this development thing of J.J. McCarthy.
I believe these things always tend to take care of themselves. Like you said, he'd have to play really well. And if he does play really well, he'll keep playing. If not, then it's going to be easy to go back to McCarthy. More broadly speaking, the list of injuries is legion already. It's pretty remarkable. And I guess I'm looking from you for a little bit of, all right, who's realistically going to be back this week? We obviously know people are injured reserve or out, including Aaron Jones. That was added today. And so he's out for a minimum of 4 weeks, correct? Mm-hmm. And everybody's got to move up one, and we brought back Cam Akers for the 3rd straight year. But in terms of even members of the offensive line, defensive players, who are we close to getting anybody back?
Well, it sounds like O'Connell told Paul Allen today that Andrew Van Ginkel, who had a concussion or was put in concussion protocol after the Week 1 game, didn't play last week, is going to be back at practice tomorrow. And so that doesn't mean he's totally cleared, but he's well on his way at least. Jeff Okudah is another guy who had already started that process, so there's a decent chance, I think, that he could be ready to be a depth guy at cornerback. Christian Darrisaw is one that, they're taking it slow. I don't know how,
is there something more there?
Well, last Friday was weird because 2 Fridays ago, he was declared questionable. He did a pregame workout and he was inactive. And then last week they just said, no, he's out. They didn't do questionable. And so I asked O'Connell if there'd been a setback of some kind, and he said, nope. And so he's usually has more to say than that, and so I don't know if he was annoyed by the question, which is possible.
You've been annoying him a lot lately.
Yeah, coming from me, or if and I don't think there's been a physical setback where he re-injured it or anything, because we wouldn't know that. He's still out there practicing, but sometimes he's generally going in the right direction, but doesn't mean that every day he's taking another positive step. You can go back, forward. So he's a big dude. TJ Hawkinson was last year with the same injury, was more or less back at this point. Every injury is different. So he's certainly within the range where a lot of guys who have the same injury do come back. And so, they haven't put him on IR. They didn't put him on IR coming out of the season. So it feels like it's a week-to-week thing. And at some point he's going to be back. But if it's not this week, you wonder if they would want to have him come back in Dublin or in London. just knowing that the field conditions there are less familiar. So we'll see. This would be a fortuitous time for him to come back, given that his backup is in the concussion protocol. But I don't think that they'll make a decision based on that.
What about our center? Speaking of concussions.
Yeah, Ryan Kelly has a concussion. It's at least the fourth he's had in the NFL. I think he's missed a total of 8 games with the previous 3 over various years. And so again, every concussion is different, and you don't necessarily treat a second or third or fourth concussion differently than you do the first, but it's certainly concerning, and that seems to not be doesn't seem to be a very good chance that he'll be available this week.
Did we get a sense in week 2? There's been so much talk about the quarterback and the offense, not as much about the defense, and I get it. We held them to primarily field goals until later in the game, but we gave up a lot of yards, a lot of time of possession, a lot of yards on the ground. So are we now regretting that we traded Harrison Phillips away yet?
Well, that is definitely something to keep in mind. He's a good run defender. Brian Flores talked to us today, and he had gone through the film obviously several times, and he felt pretty confident that there was just kind of like, and in all of those cases, there was 1 or 2 things that went wrong and everybody else was in the right spot, and it just was a little bit of a combination of poor fits and not having the edge and that sort of thing. And so I don't think that we can say based on that the Vikings are going to have a hard time stopping the run. But they definitely did against one of the NFL's best running backs last week. So that is certainly something that future teams will keep in mind. But defensively, they literally let that 1 touchdown score.
Yes, that was right.
And so I didn't come out of that, and I think when in games like that where the offense is really struggling and every time the defense gets the ball, it's like if they give up 4 yards, it's everybody's, the game is lost and it's a panic. I think those kind of games wear on a defense. And so I didn't come out of there thinking like, they got problems on both sides of the ball now. I felt like they played a winning game. 15 points before giving up that touchdown and it would have been 18 if they just kicked a field goal. Like that's winning football if you give up less than 20. So I didn't come out of there thinking like that was a disastrous situation by any stretch.
Is this Hitman's week or not?
Possibly. He's definitely been going in the right direction. So he's now had basically 2 weeks of not practicing every rep, but getting in every day at some point or another. And he said last week that it was really just a matter of him getting conditioning and just volume and just catching up from the fact that he didn't do a whole lot for about a month.
Let's do this. We're going to pause here, and we'll have one more short segment with Kevin Seifert, who is in studio with us, covers the Vikings, of course, for ESPN and ESPN.com. If you have questions for him, Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is open at 64686. By the way, for the record, I asked this during Top 5 at 5. I noted that John Parker Romo, after his big field goal day or night, had been interviewed after, and I didn't understand his answer regarding having been here with the Vikings, whether it was they didn't need me, or he actually was thanking the Vikings, not sarcastically. A couple people have texted to say that Romo was thanking the Vikings for giving an opportunity last year. So there was no attempt to I guess I showed them.
No Jake Browning.
No, yeah, he's kind of a fiery guy in terms of being a kicker. But he had to know last year that they drafted a kicker, and that was the one who was going to make the team out of camp. And he came in and did a great job in those 4 weeks when Reichard was on injury reserve, but he also had to know that they were going to stick with the guy that they drafted, and they did. And so I highly, highly doubt that he has any hard feelings towards the Vikings, and they gave him a chance to put a lot of good kicks on tape, and now he has a job in Atlanta.
John Parker Romo. So
goes by Parker.
That's what I was asking you. Why do we always say John Parker Romo?
That was the way he was originally listed when he was first signed.
Parker's his middle name, but it's a name he likes to go with?
Yeah, well, I guess I don't know if he has like some people have.
Is it a hyphenated kind of a thing?
It's not hyphenated.
Okay.
Some people are just have you got your guy John David Booty. Don't forget about him. There's lots of guys like that. I just know when
Carl Anthony
Towns.
True,
I just know when he signed with the Vikings last year after Reichard got hurt, and I asked him what do you go by? You go by John Parker, and he goes, no, I go by Parker. And so from there on, that's who it was.
It looks like he probably got a good chance he's got a job here.
Yeah.
I would think, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, he's from Peachtree City, Georgia.
Perfect.
Local angle, man. How about that?
Perfect for him, yeah.
We discovered him, and Atlanta's now reaping the benefits, for sure.
We're seeding the entire league with talent.
We'll come back and get to some other stuff with Seifert, and maybe we'll get Seifert's view on the latest Tom Brady kerfuffle. Stay tuned.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Would you guys consider anything less than a championship to be a failure from this year?
I wouldn't say anything is a failure, especially because we all grow every day. Obviously, the goal is a championship. There's no doubt in that, and that's the goal. We want to win a championship.
I'm Christina Williams, host of the podcast In Case You Missed It with Christina Williams. The WNBA playoffs are here, and I've got the inside scoop on everything from key matchups and standout players to the behind-the-scenes moments you won't find anywhere else.
It's really, really hard to be the champions, but we have to remember how it feels and embrace the new challenge that we have.
For all the biggest stories in women's basketball, plus exclusive interviews with the game's brightest stars.
So to be here, I think it's one that we definitely don't take for granted. But we also know, that's just one stop along the way, and we're hoping to, make a run.
So listen to In Case You Missed It with Christina Williams, an iHeart Women's sports production in partnership with Deep Blue Sports and Entertainment on iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts.
If you're going to Vikings Bengals on Sunday, come find our street team on the plaza outside U.S. Bank Stadium. Ask them how you can enter for your shot at a Papa Murphy's Game Day meal deal for a year. Check out KFAN.com, keyword calendar for all the details.
Kevin Seifert is back with us in studio. I'm looking at the Vikings schedule, which I'm sure, by heart. Cincinnati, Sunday at noon. And then we've got the back-to-back international games against Pittsburgh and Cleveland before we return on the 19th to take on host, I believe, the Philadelphia Eagles, who look pretty good right now, by the way. So given the injuries, beyond, certainly quarterback, but beyond quarterback too, how vulnerable do you think the Vikings are? Do you look at this schedule and who they're playing and say, no, they actually should be able to survive this in a way that they might not have been able to if they were playing really good teams through this stretch?
They're a lesser team than they were on paper entering week one. They really, even throughout camp, guys were injured coming in and out. But if you took on paper the best team that they could put on the field, like that, we haven't seen that yet, and we're not going to see it here for a little while. But I do think, it's always in context of the opponents, and especially in the case of this week with the Bengals. They're obviously in a serious transition again at quarterback. And their defense has, I guess I think their defense is probably closer to the Bears defense than it is to the Falcons defense, maybe as a way to put it in context. And so I think they have, I would consider picking them for this week's game for sure. And the interesting thing about the next two games is that they're on neutral fields. And so, just in talking to some of the Vikings people, they think they're going to have, close to 40 to 50% Vikings fans in Dublin for the Pittsburgh game, and well over 50%, up to 60 or maybe more for the Browns game. And both of those are road games. And so I think that can make some help some on the margin.
Sure.
The Browns certainly aren't a team that you would consider one of the more competitive teams in the league right now. The Steelers have been decent. Although losing at home to the Seahawks is something that I think probably has set up some alarm bells in Pittsburgh. But I think, at least before you get to that Eagles game, I think that the next three at least are manageable, and certainly not ones that you go in thinking they'll be fortunate to win.
Well, it almost looks to me like, what are we? We're 1-1 now. You kind of have to go 4-1, win the next three, right? Because you look at them. We get to that next
the Eagles,
segment of the schedule.
Chargers.
Eagles, Chargers, and the Chargers is there
on
at
Thursday
Detroit,
night,
and then Baltimore here. And then you could say, well, the Bears, you're hosting them, but then you're at Green Bay after that. So that's kind of the middle. We all talked
gauntlet,
about it.
yeah.
It's a tough part of the schedule for sure.
It is, and you're right. And and on the flip side, if somehow they trip through some of these next few games, then that's not setting themselves up to have a team that's competing for the playoffs at the end of the year. And maybe it's one of those years. I don't know. To me, the biggest organizational goal has been since day one of developing JJ McCarthy and whatever that looks like. It looks like hopefully for them, they're not heading to the worst case scenario where they have a less competitive season than they had hoped, and they don't get the job done of developing him well enough to say, we're committed to him, for next year and beyond. But at least one of those two things.
Let's finish up with the Brady story.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm missing something here. And I know this allegedly all got, discussed, and the NFL said nothing to see here. And I think Gaardsy read from another statement indicating that there's still nothing to see here. I think it was a very bad visual for the league, nevertheless, with the headset in the coach's area, even if maybe we knew that was among the places that he could go. What do you make of this, and do you think it's going to go anywhere?
Yeah, to me, it's two separate issues, and I heard you talking about it earlier. One is within the Raiders organization, and is he doing anybody any favors by sitting up there? The interesting thing is that it hasn't got as much attention, but the Colts owner Jim Irsay passed away. His daughters took over the team, and one of the daughters stands on the sidelines.
Yep.
And not even in the booth. She's on the sidelines, and she has an earpiece in, not the full headset, but she's hearing everything. And they had film of her taking notes on a card. She's in it, and so it's certainly not unprecedented. And it was interesting. The NFL statements reminded everybody that he can only use the only device he can use up there is their version of the iPad. So in other words, you can't use your cell phone to call down or to look up things or to send text messages or whatever. And so I don't know if that was a concern or not, or why that was put into the statement, but I found that interesting. But so that's part of it. Is he looking over the shoulders of the Raiders coaches?
Is he doing his own organization any favors?
So that's one thing. The other part is the more of a league thing. Like the NFL doesn't care what an owner does, in his own building, and so
I tend to agree with that.
And so, and to me, that's what you buy. That's what your money gets you.
Yep.
And so, but the other part is the concern that because last year they didn't let him do any production meetings, and people just to know what the production meetings are. It's basically when the announcers for the games have an off the record discussion with coaches and maybe the quarterback or some other key players. None of it's for absolute quotes. Sometimes you hear
for background
the announcers reference, we were talking to this guy and that guy, but it's not always it's not just for the announcers to get information. It's also for the coaches and the organizations to sort of direct the broadcast a little bit and put their best foot forward and to reveal some background information that might help you understand why this guy is struggling and all the work we're doing to keep him from, and so there's some self-preservation there. And so they want to be able to confide in these broadcasters to give them the fuel to give them a positive broadcast, basically. And that's all part of the business. And so that's fine. And so if the person you're talking to, because this year they are allowing Tom Brady to do those, but he has to do them virtually. He can't go into the building. But if you're confiding anything of any remote sensitive nature in Tom Brady, the broadcaster, you have to assume that Tom Brady, the owner, is going to pass that along to, or at least could. You don't know. He might not, but he has the ability to pass that along to the Raiders. And in the case of the Bears, he would be doing a production meeting with the Bears coaches and maybe a few players or front office people, and then a week or two later, the Raiders would be playing the Bears, week. And so the next week, and so that's the fear, and that's where people spoke up last year. Some other people pushed back and said, "Look, this is not we're not
rocket science.
Let's just everybody calm down." And so, but then you see him in the booth, and it's just a reminder of this guy is in it. So is the Colts owner. So are some other owners, probably Jerry Jones, I heard you talk about, but he's in it. And if you're Tom Brady and you pick up a glean of a bit of information that might help your organization in their game, like, are you going to hold it back? And so, like, that's the issue. And I think that's where people understandably have some concerns.
I think it's a bad look. I think we know he's Brady, so they're gonna try to find a way to grandfather him in. And I think, again, the visual is powerful, as I said earlier, in that we all kind of knew this, but you're kind of reinforced about the potential here for conflict when you see him in that role with the headset on. And I thought he was conscious enough to this that he was going to be smarter than that, where he was going to have someplace where he couldn't be seen, or he's not going to have the headset on. And that it's why I understand it's coming up again, because it's that reminder, even if no new, bridge has been crossed here, I think it's a reminder. No, wait a minute. Now, we finessed this, but should we have really finessed this? So we'll see. It sounds like but the league is basically saying it's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
correct?
he's followed the rules that they have put forth, and I guess it's on the teams to not reveal anything to him that they don't want revealed, and if it prevents them from getting the type of broadcast they might want to be getting out of it, then I guess so be it.
Did you know Carson Wentz grew up a Vikings fan?
I did, and he mentioned that when he first got here. I think he said he had Brett Favre posters, or like that was the era of when he was young. So that made me feel very old, but I am old. So
you are old, and so now, and you know what the national media is looking for? They're looking for a breakout game from Wentz. We're calling it Wentz Week already here on the Fan. And if he has a breakout week, and I know on your network, it'll be a massive story. Just on the basis of one good week, it'll be huge. It's the way it works.
It will be. If they were playing the Cowboys, it would probably be a bigger story.
True.
But that's entirely different.
That's very true. Thanks for making the effort to come in.
Yeah,
appreciate you.
Glad I got here.
Kevin Seifert hanging out with us as he often does during the season. Usually Tuesday visits as well. We started the program odiing Robert Redford. We're going to finish with a little bit more odiing of the Hollywood great.
How to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1, go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2, collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3, play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4, unleash your excitement.
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Would you guys consider anything less than a championship to be a failure from this year?
I wouldn't say anything is a failure, especially because we all grow every day. Obviously, the goal is a championship. There's no doubt in that, and that's the goal. We want to win a championship.
I'm Christina Williams, host of the podcast, In Case You Missed It with Christina Williams. The WNBA playoffs are here, and I've got the inside scoop on everything from key matchups and standout players to the behind-the-scenes moments you won't find anywhere else.
It's really, really hard to be the champions, but we have to remember how it feels and embrace the new challenge that we have.
For all the biggest stories in women's basketball, plus exclusive interviews with the game's brightest stars.
So to be here, I think it's one that we definitely don't take for granted. But we also know, that's just one stop along the way, and we're hoping to, make a run.
So listen to In Case You Missed It with Christina Williams, an iHeart Women's sports production in partnership with Deep Blue Sports and Entertainment on iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Maplewood, get ready to feast. The Friday football feast rolls on to Buffalo Wild Wings Maplewood this Friday. You can drop in as PA gets you set for Sunday's game against the Bengals, plus your chance to win great prizes all morning. Doors open at 8. Get all the details. KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Might as well make it official.
And now, it's time for Ode to a Dead Guy.
It's been time. We've been odiing Robert Redford at various times throughout today's broadcast. We've got a little bit more sound that I wanted to mention, to play, I guess, back for you the rest of the way. The first bit of sound is an anecdote from Redford. I don't know what the event was exactly, but he was, in this case, trying to have fun with and salute his good friend Paul Newman, and he basically came up with this particular story. Let's listen.
There was a time a while back when I was trying to get an apartment in New York. And for those of you who have been through this, you know it's kind of rough when you have to go before a board. And it was a really strict board, and I really needed to impress them with credentials. So I wrote to a few friends if they would support me and give me references. And I'd like to share with you tonight the letter that Paul wrote the board. To whom it may concern, Mr. Robert Redford has owed me $120 for over 3 years. He will not assume his obligation under threat of loss of friendship, honor, loyalty. I cannot, in good conscience, recommend him for anything.
They had some fun together. There's not much question about that.
Did he get the place? That's what I want to know.
That's a very good question. I don't know if I'm guessing he did, but there is, of course, another story about how they would pull pranks on each other, having to do, in this case, with vehicles. Apparently he talked about cars so much that his buddy, Robert Redford, started getting annoyed with all the car talk. And as the story goes, on Newman's 50th birthday, Redford acquired a wrecked Porsche to be dropped off at his house with a gift bow on it. I don't know if we know the model, whatever the case may be, but that's exactly what he did. Redford recounting how the rest of the prank played out in some interviews later following Newman's passing in 2008. And my recollection is that after the first prank, I guess I should say, Newman then sent the same vehicle back and somehow hired some people to get it inside the house of his friend. And as I recall the story, then at that point, Redford, so it starts with Newman, right? Newman's birthday, so Redford sends the Porsche. Then Newman sends the Porsche back to Redford. And then allegedly, at some point, Redford ended up with the house, or Newman with the vehicle inside Redford's house, and Redford never acknowledged it, or was it the other way around? One or the other. So the bit was, I'm not even going to give you the satisfaction to notice, to say, you idiot, how did you get that vehicle inside the house? What the hell did you have to do? And it spoke, I guess, kind of to their rivalry about how I'm not going to give the other guy the satisfaction.
You're not going to pull one on me.
To even though you did pull it on me, I'm never going to rise to the bait. And I believe to Paul Newman's dying day, there was never any more discussion about it. We got one more bit of sound to play, and this is Redford speaking at the National Press Club in Washington. This is, I think, a good 25, maybe 30 years ago. And you'll hear the question, I think, which was basically, do you have a favorite movie of all time? And he answers that question, does Redford, but then ultimately he gets into a lot more detail about the trials and tribulations leading to getting All the President's Men, certainly his most famous film, eventually made. Let's listen.
Do you have a favorite of all the movies in which you've appeared or that you've directed?
No, I don't. I like different movies for different reasons. They're just different reasons. I mean, Butch Cassidy was probably the most fun, just because. And then there was All the President's Men, because so many people thought we couldn't make it. And we had so much resistance to getting it made, much of it from the press itself. And just being able to get that to the screen, it took 3 years and a lot of hard work. And we had to suffer some early paranoia on the media, and a lot of it at the Washington Post. And so to get past all that, we were getting both cooperation and hedge betting at the same time. So that was tough. There was hurdle after hurdle, and we finally got past it, and it was a moment of great it was very gratifying to finally show the film here in Washington, and not be eaten alive, and have it come out all right. So there was satisfaction in that. There's satisfaction in taking A River Runs Through It, which was this small book that not many had heard of, and those who had read it said, you can't make a movie out of this. And I saw that was probably the case, but I just had to try and be able to get that to the screen and get a film out of it. Those are all very satisfying, along with films that are just fun because of the acting experience. So there's no one film, no.
In saluting Redford, that should be a big part of it, right? He mentions the history both of All the President's Men, that was not that easy to make or to get the right people in on it to get the damn thing done. But he didn't care. He kept working it because he wanted to get it done, no matter what he'd been told. And he mentioned A River Runs Through It was you can't turn that into anything. It's a short story. It's not going to translate to film. And he says, I don't care. That's what I respect in him.
Says you might be right, but I'm going to try.
I'm going to try, yeah. And ultimately, guess what? He gets it done. Now, you could say, well, that's part of when you have that much power. But part of how he accrued that much power over a period of time was how successful he was. And I like that he just didn't give up. There's no one story Redford needs that he has to do at any point. But that's still his passion, which to me tells me that he never stopped, being hungry about being in this profession that he loved and to make the most out of it, to make out of it what he wanted. Here's the direct quote from Redford regarding the pranks back and forth on the cars. Mostly I'll miss the fun Paul and I had. We played lots of pranks on each other. I used to race cars, and after he took this rare Porsche I owned for a drive, he began to get into racing. He had incredible reflexes, and he got really good, but he talked so much about it that I got sick of it. So I had a beaten-up Porsche shell delivered to his porch for his 50th birthday. He never said anything, but not long after, I found a crate of molten metal delivered to the living room of my rented house. It dented the floor. I then had it turned into a really ugly sculpture and dropped it into his garden. To this day, neither of us has ever mentioned it.
Brilliant.
How good is that?
Just bros being bros.
So they both ended up not acknowledging what the other did, and apparently it must have ended there. I don't know if it went any further than that, but that's the detail on it as well. We've had a lot of really good ideas and for underrated films and favorite films, and the Redford legacy, as I said before. I will continue to maintain my belief that his work as director should not be forgotten, despite his mythic movie parts and the mythic movies in which he participated. He did, by the way, direct A River Runs Through It. That should be no surprise, and he produced it as well. Milagro Beanfield War, I should say, 1988, highly underrated, great cast, terrific story. It in our family, it became a really important film because of the Spanish part of it, one could say, which is a significant part of the story. I assume you can still rent it. I haven't watched it in years, but I know I enjoyed the hell out of it, and it was brilliantly directed. And then his prize accomplishment, his first movie as director, Ordinary People, which you have to be in the right mood. You have to be prepared for a lot of intensity. You got to be prepared for feeling pretty damned uncomfortable. And sometimes people don't want to do that at all. Sometimes people have to be in the mood for it. But there's, I think, a universality to it regarding the family unit, and what can, in this case, tragedy within the family unit, the death of a child, of a son, one of the sons of Mary Tyler Moore and Donald Sutherland, is what moves the story and drives the story. It's just, I think, astonishing work when you put the whole thing together, and that was made back in 1980. A couple people had texted earlier. His greatest directorial achievement might well have been, as a couple texters said, to make Mary Tyler Moore look downright evil. The character that Mary Tyler Moore plays in that film is astonishing in her fury, her power, And quite frankly, her negativity, it's remarkable. And, Mary Tyler Moore, we've learned, was an underrated actress, and that was the movie that is so contrary to the Mary character in obviously her TV series. It's almost astonishing to think it's the same person. It does speak to her range. I dare say it speaks to Redford's ability to get that out of her as well. Let's break here. We'll come back, wrap things up, and prepare for tomorrow.
Hey, it's Brian Christopher. Ready to chill this summer? You're in luck. I'm hanging out at Chumba Casino, and you're in for a treat. Chillax with hundreds of games, daily bonuses, exciting spins, and epic prizes. It's all here, always free to play. Kick back, have fun, and head to ChumbaCasino.com. Let's make this summer legendary.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21+.
Would you guys consider anything less than a championship to be a failure from this year?
I wouldn't say anything is a failure, especially because we all grow every day. Obviously, the goal is a championship. There's no doubt in that, and that's the goal. We want to win a championship.
I'm Christina Williams, host of the podcast, In Case You Missed It with Christina Williams. The WNBA playoffs are here, and I've got the inside scoop on everything from key matchups and standout players to the behind-the-scenes moments you won't find anywhere else.
It's really, really hard to be the champions, but we have to remember how it feels and embrace the new challenge that we have.
For all the biggest stories in women's basketball, plus exclusive interviews with the game's brightest stars.
So to be here, I think it's one that we definitely don't take for granted. But we also know, that's just one stop along the way, and we're hoping to, make a run.
So listen to In Case You Missed It with Christina Williams, an iHeart Women's sports production in partnership with Deep Blue Sports and Entertainment on iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Program, don't go.
Gear up for a hilarious night when Dane Cook returns to the Island Event Center. You can see his legendary style of stand-up comedy live at Treasure Island on Friday, October 24th. All the details are available now at TICasino.com. Show wrap, as always, presented by American Pressure, commercial-grade pressure washer since 1975.
It's the bumper-to-bumper show wrap.
Texter out of nowhere threw this one my way, and I saved it with intention of getting to it a little bit sooner in the program. Dan, not sure you've mentioned it already, but I'm looking for your comments on Pam Bondi's hate speech comments. It's the scariest thing that's come out of the Trump circus, should be roundly rejected by both Sharks and Jets. The best rejoinder I would have to that, I saw via X today, they, as in the MAGA crowd, went from complaining about the United Kingdom sending police to your door over tweets to deciding to copy the practice. Now, let me make myself real clear. Some of the stuff I continue to see reveling in the murder, the assassination of a human being, make me sick. And it's almost as if, for some people, this is like a cartoon show. There is no excuse, in my view, for that kind of reaction, reveling in the murder of another human, no matter what you think about that person's politics. But that's very different for me than we're going to go to your house and we're going to threaten you and we're going to try to take your job away. And what's ironic, again, is once upon a time, the MAGA crowd, and certainly a lot of the Sharks out there, were in that camp. They said, well, there's freedom of speech. But now the shoe's on the other foot. They're in power. So they're starting, we've talked about this intermittently for months, to go down the very same road they decried when they weren't in a position of authority. And we are living once again in a world in which consistency is pretty much out the window. Maybe more on that tomorrow. Kessler is going to join in studio. Glenn Mason is scheduled to join in studio as well.
Can I give you the Mace update?
Yes.
Remember last week, he's like, I got to let you know. I got to know what I'm doing.
That's true.
So Mace, he called me that night. Mm-hmm. He's during the show, of course, because he doesn't know the show's not on if he's not on.
That's the way he feels.
And he asked me what I was doing. I said, I'm working. It's 6 o'clock. He's not in studio. He's out of town.
Okay.
But he is joining from a radio station in the town that he is visiting.
That's how committed he is.
That's how committed Mace is. So
and he pulled that off himself?
Pretty much. Pretty
No
much.
kidding.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm impressed.
So 4 o'clock tomorrow.
Okay,
Mace,
all right.
I'll let him outline where he is tomorrow.
Perfect.
But he's pulling up. He's
That's
very
perfect.
dedicated. It's very cool.
Yeah, that's pretty much outstanding. Great discussion about the passing of Bob Redford. My wife was a Minnesota Rotary Club foreign exchange student, or foreign exchange student in Bolivia when Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid was released. It was banned in Bolivia, and she had to wait almost a year to see it. That's Rich from St. Paul. Yeah, it's a hell of a movie. I would not put it at the top of my list. I would actually put The Sting ahead of it myself. But again, that's all personal taste. But what a fine motion picture, and obviously they work together beautifully in that film as well. Want to thank all our outstanding guests today. That includes John Athletic, Kevin Seifert in studio, and Paul Bloom with some sobering A-section updates as well. Bloom at 4:15, Johnny Athletic at 3:30, and Seifert joined in studio beginning about 5:15. You mentioned Mace and Kessler tomorrow. Should also mention Vikings Country is going to follow us live and local tonight. Do we have a guest set? Do we know?
We don't know.
We don't know.
Brett doesn't know either.
That's part of the beauty of it. So
Yeah.
part of it is that's the tease.
And I tried to talk to Muss down the line. He was playing some game at the bar that he's at, so I don't know where it is.
That right?
I don't know who the guest is, but I'm sure it'll be great.
Interesting. I can't wait. Can't wait for that. That'd be outstanding. And then Wentz week will continue. We're getting closer and closer to the start of the Carson Wentz era of Minnesota Vikings football. Who knew when the story broke? I think State Fair was that on a Sunday?
Sounds right.
I think it was
after
on
the last
Sermons
preseason game.
that Wentz, we found out Wentz was being signed by the Purple. And we all laughed at it then. Now he's a starter. That's the way the football gods work in very mysterious ways. You just never know. Is it probable that he'll do so well he'll never relinquish the job the rest of the season? No.
It could be a reverse Foles
Is it
for
possible? It absolutely is possible because we've seen how these things play out before. So stay tuned.
Jalen Naylor, the guest.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Speedy's the guest, according to Jared Wells, the engineer. Thanks, Jared.
Outstanding. I appreciate the update. Thanks for watching. Thanks indeed for listening. And we'll get it started again tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
A lot of things that are easily correctable.
What the hell's going on out here? I'll be there.
Sorry, KFAN.
This is Rob Gronkowski from Dudes on Dudes. Applebee's just cooked up the ultimate option play with their new Ultimate Trio deal. You can choose from 3 of their delicious appetizers and pair them up with 3 sauces for just $14.99. Craft your perfect trio from over 80,000 different combinations in this flavor-packed plate built for one, or to share if you're generous. You can stick with the classic pairings like boneless wings and buffalo sauce, or you can spice things up and try some unexpected pairings like dipping chicken wonton tacos in our honey Dijon mustard. It's time to head to your neighborhood Applebee's or order online today. Now that's eating good in the neighborhood.
This is Julian Edelman from Games with Names. Football is back. That means it's tailgate time. And this season, the only meat I'm going to grill is Dietz and Watson. I'm loving the Black Angus Dietz dogs. They're flavor packed, and you can tell they are made with the highest quality ingredients. Sundays just got a whole lot better. Visit DietzandWatson.com/therightway to learn more about the Dietz difference.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Wasabi Technologies is purpose-built to free businesses from skyrocketing storage costs and unpredictable egress fees from those old and top-heavy legacy providers. You know, the big guys. Wasabi is the go-to provider for professional and collegiate sports teams around the world. From Wasabi's AI-enabled intelligent media storage, Wasabi Air, to the industry's only cloud storage service with triple protection against cyber criminals, Wasabi is driving innovation in data storage. All for up to 80% less than those other guys. Try them out for free at wasabi.com.